You might be thinking, who's that? A beautiful queen with a big heart and an even bigger dream who changed history by standing up for her people when it mattered most. No, not Snow White, not Sleeping Beauty. It's Queen Esther, the protagonist of the biblical Book of Esther. Her story is one of courage, kindness, and unwavering faith in God. But here's the catch. Her story isn't just found in fairy tales or bedtime stories, it's real history. The Book of Esther in the Old Testament tells the true account of how God protected his people through the courageous actions of a young Jewish woman named Hadassah, who later became Queen Esther. Imagine living in a world where your identity could get you killed. That was the reality for Jews living in the ancient Persian Empire. They faced persecution and were forbidden to practice their religion. Yet amidst this darkness, God had a plan. He raised up Esther, a young Jewish woman living in the ancient Persian Empire, to become the queen and save her people from destruction. But why did God choose her? What made her story so significant? To understand this, we need to go back to the beginning. In those days, King Artaxerxes ruled over the vast Persian Empire. Now, despite being half Jewish, Esther had been raised in her cousin Mordecai's house ever since she was a little girl. And let me tell you, this guy, Mordecai, was like a father figure to her. He was super protective and wanted the best for her. One day, King Artaxerxes needed someone to be his new queen. His advisors told him that they had a perfect candidate, Esther, the young woman who lived with her uncle Mordecai. Intrigued, the king invited her to a grand feast. She turned heads with her stunning beauty, winning the favor of everyone, especially the king. He lavished her with expensive gifts, fine clothing, and all the adoration one could imagine. After much anticipation, the king placed a golden crown on her head and officially proclaimed her Queen Esther. Now this is where things take a dramatic turn. Unbeknownst to Esther, there was a man in the kingdom who seethed with anger towards the king and the entire Jewish community. His name was Haman, and he was the king's close advisor, but don't let that fool you. This guy was all about power and prestige, and because of his influential position, the king trusted him with important tasks. But Haman couldn't stand that Mordecai, Esther's uncle, didn't bow down to him. You know, back in those days, it was common for people to show respect by bowing down to those considered greater, but Mordecai wasn't having it. He refused to bow to anyone except God. This really got under Haman's skin. He wanted everyone to bow to him, and Mordecai's refusal was a slap in the face. And get this, Haman's hatred wasn't just personal. He had a bone to pick with all Jews. In his twisted mind, they were a threat to the empire. So he convinced the king that the Jews had rebelled against the empire and persuaded him to sign a decree ordering the annihilation of every Jew in the empire. Talk about a bad guy. So the king gave the order, sealed it with his royal ring, and sent the message out across the land. The people heard the king's command and were ready to carry out the evil plan. They looted Jewish homes and even killed some. Now let's fast forward to Queen Esther's palace. She's chilling in her royal digs when she hears from her uncle Mordecai about what's happening to the Jews. He tells her that the Jews are about to be wiped out and asks her to do something about it. This is where our story takes a thrilling turn. At first, Esther is torn. On one side, she has a duty to protect her people. On the other, if she reveals her Jewish identity, she and her family could be in danger. But after careful thought, she decides to take action. You see, revealing one's identity was risky business. If caught, Esther would have put herself in a precarious situation, possibly even facing death. Yet she was determined to do whatever it took to protect her people. So she hatches a plan. She invites the king and Haman to a banquet, but doesn't reveal her true intentions. During the feast, the king and Haman have a great time. They eat, drink, and make merry. However, little do they know that Queen Esther has a surprise up her sleeve. As the night unfolds, Queen Esther makes her move. She reveals her Jewish identity to the king, exposing Haman's wicked plot. Can you imagine the king's surprise when he learns that his trusted advisor had deceived him? In a fit of rage, the king confronts Haman, demanding an explanation. Haman is left speechless, realizing the gravity of his deceit. As the truth unravels, the king is filled with remorse for falling prey to Haman's treachery. He questions why he hadn't seen through Haman's cunning ways. Overwhelmed with shame and regret, the king vows to rectify the situation and honor Queen Esther for her bravery. The following day, the king issues a new decree, this time ordering the Jews throughout the empire to defend themselves against any who might harm them. The tables have turned, and now Haman finds himself in a desperate situation. He's stripped of his power and influence, left to face the consequences of his hateful actions. The king's swift reversal of fortune serves as a reminder of the importance of justice and the dangers of unchecked ambition. With the support of the king, Queen Esther successfully pleaded the case for her people, securing their safety and prosperity. Haman's evil scheme was foiled, and the Jews were granted the right to exist within the empire. In the end, good triumphed over evil, and Queen Esther's bravery became a beacon of hope for generations to come. Now, this story isn't just a tale of political intrigue and triumph. It's a profound exploration of faith, identity, and courage. Imagine growing up knowing that practicing your religion could cost you your life. That was the reality for Jews in the ancient Persian Empire. They faced constant persecution and were forbidden to openly follow God. But despite the danger, these resilient people held on to their faith, passing down their traditions and values to the next generation. They never lost hope that one day things would change. Enter Esther, a young Jewish woman living in the bustling city of Susa. Unlike her contemporaries, she didn't have to hide her Jewish identity. Raised by her beloved uncle Mordecai, Esther grew up knowing her heritage and embracing her cultural norms. But fate had a different path in mind for her. When King Artaxerxes decided to find a new queen, Esther's life would change forever. You see, for many Jews, marriage outside their faith was strictly forbidden, but Esther's situation was unique. Her mother had been a Jew, while her father was a Persian nobleman. So Esther found herself caught between two worlds. Although she was raised in the Jewish faith, she also understood the customs and culture of the Persians. When she entered the king's court, Esther didn't just captivate the king with her beauty. She represented a bridge between two cultures. Her ability to navigate both Jewish tradition and Persian etiquette made her a remarkable choice for queen. Now, being queen wasn't just about wearing fancy clothes and living in a big palace. It was about making tough decisions that affected the entire empire. Esther wasn't just a passive figurehead. She used her power to help those in need, showing compassion and kindness to all who sought her out. But her greatest challenge was yet to come. When Haman, the king's trusted advisor, began plotting to destroy all the Jews in the empire, Esther found herself in a perilous situation. On one hand, she had a duty to protect her people. On the other, revealing her Jewish identity could put her and the kingdom in danger. It was a heart-wrenching dilemma. As the story unfolds, Esther realizes that she must take action. With the support of her uncle Mordecai, she hatches a plan to expose Haman's evil plot to the king. But it was a risky move, and the consequences could be dire. When Esther finally reveals her identity to the king, she puts herself in a precarious position. But her courage pays off. The king is appalled by Haman's deceit and swiftly reverses his deadly decree, turning the tables on the wicked advisor. But it's not just about revenge. Esther's story is ultimately one of hope. It shows that no matter how dark things may seem, good can always triumph over evil. In the end, Esther's bravery not only saved the Jews, but also brought her people together. They celebrated their survival with joy and gratitude, honoring Esther as their savior. Esther's story reminds us that sometimes the quietest voices can make the loudest statements. Even when faced with unimaginable odds, one person's courage can change everything. So if you ever feel like your voice doesn't matter, remember the story of Queen Esther, the unassuming Jewish queen who dared to speak up and became a legend.